to say, okay, it's okay to fail because you're going to be loved no matter what. I had to look at it from a long term because I wasn't going to give up on the game.
Right.
So I had to say, okay, this year I'm going to get better at that. Next year, this, and then so forth and so on. And then patiently I was able to catch them.
The first question I want to ask you, because so much of your content right now that you're creating here at Granity is aimed at helping young people, aimed at helping children. And as a father of 4 girls, I wanted to ask you, what's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself by being a father?
It's amazing. Like when you become a parent, things become much more, life becomes, lines things up for you a little differently, right? Like before you have kids, me and my wife, we can travel anytime, there's work, and, you become you have a very clear focus. When you have children, it becomes about them. It's not about you guys anymore, right? And so that shift, it's a big one. It's one of kind of a selfishness together, and then to being absolutely selfless and doing anything you can for your kids. And so what I'm trying to do is create content to teach them first and foremost. That's why I started this whole thing, is just reading stories to them that I felt like didn't exist. Our kids are athletes. And they love reading about princesses and all these fairy tales. And, they get a little sick and tired about the man saving the princess every time. And, the same old stuff, magical wands and all that. My kids are athletes, man. They want to learn about soccer balls and basketballs and volleyballs and, magic that comes from that.
Yeah, and I love that you're encouraging young people to think more imaginatively about sports.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you go a step deeper. For me, observing you and learning about you and hearing you speak in other interviews and everything, what I'm fascinated by is that you've dealt with things in life pretty head on, right? You've always gone at it. What took you a while? What was something in your life that you were shy about originally, or that took you a while to go head on with, but then finally you got there and you figured it out?
Writing Dear Basketball, that was a hard jump, because I'd written before. I started writing probably about 17 years ago. So practicing every day. A lot of things that I wrote were ads. And so when you write an ad, nobody looks up at who wrote the ad, right? You can there's a certain anonymity that comes along with that, right? But writing Dear Basketball was different. It's putting it out there for the world to see. It's trying to create a short film. And I didn't know if I could do it, man. And, it was my daughter who kind of put things in perspective for me, Gianna. She's now 13. And she was like, well, you always tell us to go for it. So...
She put you on the spot.
Yeah, she put me on the spot. She was like, you going to talk about it? You going to be about it, basically. And, and that gave me the final push.
I love that. When you started writing 17 years ago, did you envision that one day you would move into this storytelling space, or was it just something you enjoyed at the time?
No, man. It was just something I enjoyed, and I enjoyed writing ads. It was something funny about trying to distill a message down into 30 seconds or a minute, depending on the budget. You know what I mean? Trying to say something important, trying to speak to the brand attributes, but also speak to something that's greater and that has a stronger message, stronger philosophical message. And how do you connect those dots? So putting that puzzle together was something that was really intriguing.
Yeah.
But I never thought I'd be writing novels or movies and that sort of stuff. Never, man.
I love that, man. I love it how everything evolves naturally. And actually hearing you say that, it reminds me, so my vision when I was sharing earlier became very clearly making wisdom go viral. And I was like, how do I take these teachings that are so sacred, they're hidden away in these books, and how do I make them really relevant and accessible and practical to the whole world? Because I know that anyone can access them. They're universal, right? These teachings can apply to anyone, but sometimes they're just hidden away. And a young person doesn't know how to find them. So that inspires me hearing them.
That's beautiful too, because especially in today's world, there's so much clutter. It becomes harder for kids to try to weave through a lot of the crap that's out there to find stuff that's actually beneficial to them.
Yeah, I think you reminded me, I think E.O. Wilson said, we're drowning in information, starving for wisdom.
Yes,
right?
Sure.
Especially, and that's why I think your work is cutting through, because I think what you've managed to do with your new work is that you're finding ways to connect with what people care about, but you're taking it a step deeper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not just settling for let's talk about sports. It's not just about sports. It's about life, right?
It's about the metaphor that sports has for life. I mean, sports is the greatest metaphor we have. in terms of dealing with life. Because, even if you listen to music will give you guidance, right? That you can then meditate on and think about how you would apply it. In sports, you have to apply it in the here and now. I mean, you're faced with challenges moment to moment. You're faced with pressures and anxiety and communication or the lack thereof and all this other stuff. Like, it's in the moment. So you have to live it. And when you practice those things, you become better at it. But I just feel like in this day and age, our children have become less imaginative about how to problem solve. And parents and coaches have become more directive in trying to mandate or give orders or teach kids how to think and teach kids how to behave versus tell them how to behave versus teaching them how to behave. And so that's why I'm creating these stories and creating this content.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so true. When you treat people as kids, then they always be kids,
right?
Even when they grow up.
Yeah.
And for you, it was really powerful because you've talked about this before, where your father said to you, like, whether you score 0 or 60, like, I love you.
Yeah.
Tell me what that statement meant to you at that time, and how did it actually motivate you to continue scoring 60 rather than go, oh, I'm all right at 0?
Well, it did more than that, right? So, like, the basketball stuff speaks for itself in terms of what that comment did for me, in terms of giving me stability and giving me confidence to say, okay, it's okay to fail because you're going to be loved no matter what. And that doesn't just mean basketball. That means anything in life. Right? That means writing. That means being an entrepreneur. That means having the confidence to go for it. And I've seen too many parents do the exact opposite. And it terrifies children. And children become paralyzed by their own fear because they don't have that security blanket of love and comfort.
Yeah, absolutely. How have you been able to, in your life, see past the cloud of emotion to actually execute on things? Because I think what we were speaking about earlier, this challenge that young people have today, everyone has today, of just so much information, so much cloud of emotion, so many feelings, so much childhood baggage that you're bringing. Like, how have you always cut through that and execute on it?
What I try to do is just try to be still and understand that things come and go. Emotions come and go. The important thing is to accept them all, to embrace them all, and then you can choose to do with them what you want versus being controlled by emotion. A lot of times I've seen players, even myself, when I was younger, being consumed by a particular fear, and to the point where you're saying, okay, it's not good to feel fear. I shouldn't be nervous in a situation like that. And it does nothing but grow. Versus stepping back and saying, yeah, I am nervous about the situation. Yeah, I am fearful about the situation. Well, what am I afraid of? And then you kind of unpack it. And then it gives you the ability to look at it for really what it is, which is nothing more than your imagination running its course,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that, because what you're saying is that when you're dealing with something, it's almost like, how can I get to the root of it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes what we're dealing with, like you're saying, it's an imagination, an illusion. It's not really...
It's not really a thing, Like you think about game-winning shots or game-winning free throws, and people go to the free throw line and they're nervous about it. Well, what are you really nervous about? If you unpack that, okay, you're nervous that you're going to miss the shot. All right, so you missed the shot, then what happens? People are going to be embarrassed. You're going to be embarrassed because thousands of people, millions of people see you miss the shot. All right, and then what? People are going to talk bad about you. Okay. Right. And so you're looking at it and you go, are those things even important? You know what I mean? If that is my fear, like what is, you worried about letting your teammates down? Okay. Have you let them down before? Oh, I'm sure. In practice and things of that nature, right? They're still there.
Yeah.
And so when you're able to unpack it, you kind of look at it for what it is, which is really nothing.
Yeah, I love that. Breaking it down. I think that's so important. I think everyone who's listening or watching right now, next time you're facing a fear, next time you're going against something, do that. Like literally unpack it. Don't just settle for your first answer, because the first answer is rarely the right one.
Yeah, don't hide from it. You got to be able to look at it and, and deal with it head on.
Yeah, I love that, man. And you talk about that because you talk about, when you talk about missing 5 throws and you talk about getting over yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like getting over yourself. How did you get that mentality of just being like, I need to get over this. Like, I need to get over myself.
Trial and error. You grow up and you make game-winning shots and it's awesome. You come back the next day and miss a game-winning shot and it's misery. And then the next day comes and you're back playing again. And you understand that life has this cyclical nature where it's, what you do on Monday is fantastic, but then Tuesday is a bad day. But guess what? There's Wednesday.
Yeah.
So are we just supposed to live our lives like this the whole time? Versus just staying like this and understanding that it's really just a journey of evolution every day. It's just constant improvement, constant curiosity, constantly getting better. The results don't really matter. It's the figuring out that matters.
Yeah. And we all get obsessed about the results.
Yeah.
Like we get obsessed about like the output, not the input, of not figuring it out and not like changing things. What you said, trial and error, like the experimenting.
Yeah.
We forget to do that.
It's unfortunate, man. Like I've seen a lot of players, especially now, in youth basketball, dealing with that. You have players that are like bigger and faster and stronger, and their coaches are just coaching them for results. We're just going to use your size because you're bigger than every other 12-year-old out there to dominate today. But they're not growing, right? So they're just based on that result, but they're not focused on growing this young child into becoming a better athlete. And through that, teaching them how to become a more well-rounded person. And we're missing that.
Yeah. See what you've said there, I want to ask you this, and I'm not saying because you know yourself best and you know how you've got there. So I'm asking it from a place of humility, of learning. When I look at you, I'm like, your superpower isn't just your work ethic. Your superpower isn't just like figuring things out. Your superpower is like you think strategically. Like that's a very strategic thought of saying this person could be this in the future if they were developed as a whole individual, rather than just like, let's use them for the short term.
Right.
Like, where did you develop that from, that ability to see beyond, to think deeper, to reflect deeper? Where did that come from?
Well, I had to do that because, I growing up in Italy. When I first moved over there, it was, I didn't speak Italian. I didn't have any friends. I had the game of basketball, and through sport and playing soccer, I was able to make friends and build connections. But it was a lot of time spent alone. And when I came back to the States, I wasn't the most athletic kid. I was really scrawny, like really, really skinny, and had like major knee issues because I was growing. So I was the dorky kid with high socks and big old knee pads.
It's fashionable now.
It wasn't then. And so I had to look long term. Because in the here and now, I couldn't compete with these kids. I mean, there's kids that were like 12 years old with beards. Like, I can't. What am I supposed to do with that? Like, they're doing windmills and dunking backwards, and I'm happy to like tap the backboard, So I had to look at it from a long term because I wasn't going to give up on the game.
Right.
So I had to say, okay, this year I'm going to get better at that. Next year, this, and then so forth and so on. And then patiently, I was able to catch them.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Because I think so many of us you believe like when you see people like yourself, it's like, it's so easy as an excuse to ourselves to just be, you're destined for it, right? You were made for it. It's kind of like that kind of, but when you talk about saying, actually, when I started, I didn't have the physicality that meant that I was going to make it. Like you had to figure it out, and I love it.
Figure it out, man. It's just piece by piece, and it's the consistency of the work, which I feel like a lot of parents are missing today because we're not teaching that to our kids. We tend to say like kids don't want to do the work, but in reality, it's when we're failing them because we're not leading them the right way and teaching them, how to fish. You know what I mean? And so like the consistency of work, Monday, get better. Tuesday, get better. Wednesday, get better, right? And you do that over a period of time, not like 1 month or 2 months. I mean, it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And then you can get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was Bill Gates who was talking about that. He talks about how like we overestimate what we can do in 1 year and underestimate what we can do in 10 years.
No doubt.
Right? Like it's like that,
No doubt.
I think everyone thinks about it, like, what can I do right now? Like, how can I make it happen? But like with you, I think people always ask you also like, how do you deal with losing or failure? What I'm intrigued by is how someone like you deals with winning. Because you've won again and again. And like I was saying earlier, you won, obviously we know you've won in basketball big as an athlete, but you're winning now, even in the work you're doing here as a storyteller, as a producer, right? Yeah. It's amazing to see so many incredible awards coming through. How have you dealt with winning? Like when you win, what goes through your mind to help you to continue with?
Well, it's a little different. Like in basketball, it was different because I expected to win, Like I expected us to win championships. I expected us to win 5. Quite honestly, I expected us to win 8. And so when you have that vision in sports, it's a direct competition. Like I know how hard they're working. I know how hard we're working. I know what their strategy is. I know what ours is, So it's a little different. So when we went in the NBA, it was like, we expected to do that. But now we we're going to come back and we're going to do it again, you know? And so it's that constant, like, all right, you're churning. You win one championship, I'm back in the gym the next day, working, getting ready for the next one. Now, it's different because it's not about the awards. You know, you just wind up trying to create something that's going to inspire someone that hopefully, you know, through that inspiration, they can inspire somebody else. And what I've come to learn as my career went on is that's more significant than any championship. Is how do you connect with somebody that can then connect with